it's quite challenging for me at first to do this kind of research because we are doing it in the midst of pandemic. Uh, and it's very fortunate for me to have a very resourceful assistant, yeah, to help me. Yeah, I have Askar Muhammad, Jordan Bramsa, and also Fitri Nurjana helping me to do this paper. Um, yeah, it's quite challenging because amid the pandemic, we have some difficulties in data gathering. It's very struggling, to have the data. But yeah, at last at least we have some kind of let's say um, in intermediate strategies, yeah, in order to actually overcome the difficulties in having the data. Okay, so as Mr. Fujita earlier has said that we have uh, two variations of investment. Yeah. As a matter of fact, trade and investment is actually quite an axis. Trade is actually impulsing investment, as well as investment is also creating trade. So which is which? Yeah, if we create trade, we can also create investment, and if we push investment, we can also create trade. But what type of investment? That is actually the question that the paper are trying to address. We have equity versus non-equity modes, which is the most relevant for us. So, I can actually tell you that we cannot measure which is better because it depends on the sector. Yeah, it's very much a sectoral perspective. Yeah, in one sector, NEM is actually quite preferable. To the other sector, FDI is actually quite favorable. So we cannot actually solidly decide which is more relevant for Indonesia. But then again, having more is always better. So if we have variation of investment, variation of the trade strategies, it will be more beneficial for us, yeah, as a country. But unfortunately, yeah, for most of developing countries, NEMS, non-equity modes, is actually almost unheard of. Um, so there's very much the title for the papers, yeah, on NEMS, yeah, the new form of trade. Although it's already been established in several years and maybe more than a decade, but in terms of magnitude, in terms of value, in terms of familiarities, is almost unheard of. So yeah, it's already been there, but almost unheard of. So that is quite unfortunate. So I think the paper is trying also to disseminate, yeah, the strategies, yeah, to push the variations on investment and also trade. So as I said earlier, more is always better. With regards to NAM, so we have here the contractual relation, yeah, non-equity modes. Yeah. It can be present as an option in developing economic cooperation between and among countries. So it's actually quite, say, growing, yeah, in developing countries because of some factors that I will show you later on. With regards to the investment, yeah, investment is one of the major contributor for the Indonesian economy, along with consumption. But the government is trying to push the investment more in order to have variabilities in the contributing factors of the economy, because consumption alone is not sustainable. So we need to push more on other variables. Yeah, the other variables are at the form of investment and also trade. As Mr. Secretary General earlier said, that NEMS is actually an arbitrage between FDI and also trade. So with having trade, with having NEMS, yeah, we will actually also pushing trade. So trade and investment, NEMS, non-equity modes, also creates trade. Fortunately for us, Indonesia, starting from 2021, yeah, we're on the right momentum. Yeah, as we can see from the data, uh, uh, since early this year, we have continuous, what I say, surplus in our trade balance. Yeah, it's a very perpetual, yeah, as it's most expected because, um, yeah, we have this kind of first is we are coming from the low base effect, yeah, starting from 2020, and the second, the government is trying also to push trade and also investment, and this is the momentum, yeah, starting from 2021, and because of that, NAM is very relevant. Uh, with that regard, yeah, government is trying to push, yeah, the investment through the very new law, yeah, under the omnibus law number 11 of 2020 on job creation, so that we can create a fruitful ecosystem. Yeah, the government as the ecosystem enabler, they are doing uh, their let's say all of their power, yeah, to push the investment and to actually to establish the investment ecosystem, yeah, which is the very ecosystem that is actually creating a foundation for uh, the future non-equity modes of investment and also trade. These are the types. I can skip it because it's already been explained before. And with regards to the differences and also the similarities, we have several factors as the major determinants then that both applies for FDI and also NAMs. We have economic, political, social stability, competition policy, trade policy, and also tax policy that all serve for FDI and also NAM. But to make it different, yeah, what is more relevant for FDI, we have the rules with regards to the entry and operations, standard of treatment, yeah, with regards to foreign affiliates, international investment agreements, and also privatization policy. As for NAMs, we have several factors that are more relevant. Yeah. Stable, general, and sustainable commercial and contractual law, specific laws governing the NAM's contractual forms, yeah, with regards to licensing, franchising, and also contracts, and also intellectual property protection. Some say that this intellectual property protection is one of the factor that is actually quite constraining the developed countries into developing countries in having NAMs. That is why NAMs is actually almost unheard of because, yeah, most of the TNCs maybe are quite actually, let's say, concerned with the level of the intellectual property protection. So that is actually one speculation. Maybe that will lead to another paper. Another thing that is actually more relevant for NAMs is we need to have, our NAM needs to have the TNCs, yeah, the transnational companies need to have a, let's say, a good partner, yeah, the presence of credible local entrepreneurs and also business partners. Yeah, we need here, in order to establish non-equity modes of trade and financing, we need a compatible partner. We need a good partner and trustful partner. That is actually the mantra of having NAM in emerging markets. And also we need also the access to local capital. That is actually also relevant in having NAMs in developing countries, especially for Indonesia. Okay, so I can skip this. At the meantime, we have this deindustrialization, yeah, coming. With regards to NAM in Indonesia is actually very dominant in the services sector, yeah, retail, tourism, and so on and so forth. But it's very limited in the manufacturing. The reason why is actually because of the foundation, the economic structure of Indonesia in terms of the industry is quite um, quite, what I say, challenging in terms of the industry. We have deindustrialization coming on. So the idea is to have NAM also in the manufacturing sectors. So with that, our hypothesis is if NAM is actually also included heavily in the manufacturing sectors, that will actually what I say, do a much more positive result to the industrial capacity. So that is actually also the aim of having NAMs in the emerging markets, especially for Indonesia, that is having a major concern in the industrialization. Okay, so we have this selected major industries, yeah, as the case study. Uh, we disaggregate the sector into primary, secondary, and also tertiary sector. We actually sort it out through the employment creation and also the value of the industries. And we have this contract farming in natural rubber, subcontracting in footwear, management contract in hotel, and franchising in the convenience store. Yeah, each with different case studies. One thing for the explorative research, yeah, with regards to the case study, we cannot have a generalization. Yeah. As a typical explorative research, it can dig deeper. It can deep dive into the sectoral overview, but it cannot have a generalization. Yeah. We cannot have a more aggregate view on the sectors because, again, NAMS is almost unheard of. Yeah, it's actually not being classified properly in the investment data. Yeah, if you check from BKPM, yeah, or now becoming the Ministry of Investment, it's not there. Also in Ministry of Trade, so it's quite scarce. So it's not justified yet, yeah, in terms of data classification. So with that respect, it is actually more relevant if we are having it into the case study. Okay, so the first is contract farming in natural rubber. Indonesia is actually highly regarded as one of the largest producer, along with Malaysia and also Thailand. And one thing for sure is for the natural rubber, most of the actors are coming from smallholder farmers. That is actually make this push in this very industry is very inclusive in the sense that it will create employment, yeah, in terms of the smallholder farmers, and it also includes a local wisdom in terms of cooperative, yeah, and also unit pengolahan dan pemasaran bakar, we call it UPPB. Yeah, it's also what I say, the form of a cooperative method, yeah, which is actually very much in the Indonesian DNA, yeah, gotong royong, kerjasama, and so on and so forth. So it's very inclusive. But because it is it's actually involving smallholders and small farmers, is very I say scattered by nature. So with that, we need integrator. So that comes for our case study on Kirana Megatara Group, yeah, which is actually becoming the integrator, or maybe you can call it as an off-taker for those farmers. Yeah. So this integrator are actually trying to make sure that the capacity and the compatibility of the product is actually relevant to the international buyer. Yeah, we have here Bridgestone, Michelin, and Goodyear as our international buyer. So it's very inclusive. So if you push them into this very sector, yeah, this will actually solve the issue on development gap. So sometimes if we are growing, some are left behind. But in terms of pushing this very sector, the smallholders are actually growing together. So in that relation is very inclusive. The next one is footwear subcontracting. Yeah, in terms of footwear. So it's very also is a very competitive industry in Indonesia. With regards to the revealed comparative advantage index, this is actually the very sectors that are very comparative and competitive. Yeah, throughout ASEAN and also the world, we are actually quite a champion. Yeah, in this industry, and we have several international buyers, of course. Yeah, we have Nike, also Adidas, and so on and so forth. Even Nike here having a quarter of its production in Indonesia. Yeah, and it's actually mainly located on the island of Java and also Sumatra. And it's a very labor intensive and very, what is it, very in line with the government goal to create the employment. We have the already established Tanaruk Industry as one of the local partner, along with several international buyers. For this case, we use Adidas. Yeah. So Adidas is doing research and development, design, outsourcing, distribution. Yeah. While the Tanaruk Industry is actually making sure that the product is actually compatible. Yeah. It's just like before. Yeah? We have the product compatibility, and we have also what I say, the partnering, yeah, between the local and international partner. So another story is about management contracts and also franchising. Yeah, we use hotel industries and tourism industries. Why? Because tourism industries are very much growing for Indonesia. It's a very respected non-tradable sectors, and it creates employments and also becoming the firepower of the Indonesian economy for several years. But that is before the pandemic. Yeah. So with the pandemic, most of the province and most of the, what I say, location that is actually dependent heavily on the tourism sectors are very much having a huge contraction if we compare it with other sectors. But in terms of the process of economic recovery, so we are trying to recover in 2021. And also the Minister of Tourism is also creating the foundation, yeah, to that recovery, the recovery process. So it is very much expected that the Indonesian economy will also, we say, very much helped with this tourism sector in the near future, yeah, as one of the factors that can expedite the recovery process. So we have the what I say, the partnering, yeah, the partners between the also the local and also the international hotel. Yeah, so as an overview, the international hotels operate in Indonesia under different types of contracts and different type of entry modes. Yeah, and one of the most critical factors affecting the TNCs in entering Indonesia to decide whether to choose NEMs over FDI is actually local regulation. Yeah, as NEM is actually becoming a cushion of them of the TNCs having and entering Indonesia, yeah, and still comply with the local regulation. So that is actually one of the strategy. So considering the bureaucratic difficulties involved in the Indonesian FDI inflows, for investors who own international hotel brands have to adapt more flexible mode of entry. Yeah, one of which is contractual management or franchising agreements. So we have here as our case study, yeah, the Accor Hotel Group is actually partnering with the local partners, the same as before. The next thing is about franchising. Yeah, we use the convenience store. Yeah, because with the one of the most established middle class in the world, and it's very much growing, and it's very much, I say, the firepower of the Indonesian economy. Yeah, from this several years or so. Retail sectors is also in line. Yeah, the growth of retail sectors is also very much in line with the growing of the middle class in Indonesia. here we have several actors, yeah, entering Indonesia. We have several TNCs, one of which is Lawson. Lawson is actually the first encounter with the Indonesian retail market is happening in 2014. Yeah. Um, although with regards to the technological transfer, yeah, in terms of NEMS, as also very much highlighted from the previous presentation by the General Secretary. Um, but because this is operating in the service sector, the cultural transfer is very much flexible. Yeah. The corporate culture is very much flexible. So in terms of acquiring new knowledge in the services sector is quite plausible and it is quite, what do you say, open. Um, for most of Indonesian, maybe if you remember, starting from 2014 and 2015, yeah, when you enter Indomart or Alfamart, yeah, so you're beginning to see that they're they're actually changing, yeah, in terms of the services and so on and so forth. When you open Indomart or Alfamart, for example, they will greet you. Selamat datang di Indomaret, selamat datang di Alfamart. But do you know that there is actually coming from the Japanese culture, yeah, in the services sector. When you open Lawson or Family Mart in Japan, they will immediately greet you with "irashaimase." Yeah. So it's actually the same. In terms of services, in terms of culture, it's actually very immediate effect. In terms of technological transfer, maybe yeah, a bit lagging behind. So yeah, starting from 2018, yeah, Lawson is becoming is actually trying to also have their franchise in Indonesia. It's actually um, very good, yeah, in terms of the growth. Yeah, that is before the pandemic. Um, so, what is the most preferable modes? So that is actually what the paper are trying to see. Um, with several assessment, we actually identify several factors. The preferred mode of foreign investment. That is actually also becoming the model structure of the analytical hierarchy process that we are currently employing for this paper. So we have the growth and the survival of business. We have also trying to see the socio-economic and developmental impact. We have also the expansion of market access and acquisition of technology as the factors that is affecting the preferable conditions on having NAMs or FDI or equity, non-equity modes or equity modes. With that regard, we invite several experts. Yeah. So if you see here, a preferred foreign investment mode based on the AHP coming from the expert. Okay. So so we see from both of the expert, FDI modes is actually, or the equity mode is actually quite preferable as opposed to NAMs. Why? Because of the maybe of the existing condition in Indonesia. But there is a dynamic process. It can change, it can stay, it depends. Also, we have here coming from the experts, which one is actually the most relevant for Indonesia? Is it the growth of the business? Is it the expansion of the market access? Is it the socio-economic of the, or developmental impact, or the acquisition of technology? So unanimously, we have here from the expert, it is actually at the form of the growth and survival of business and also expansion of market access. This too is actually the most relevant for Indonesia. But for the sectoral overview coming from the expert, we have a different result. Yeah. In terms of growth of the business and the sustainability of the business, the perspective from the agricultural sector, yeah, they prefer FDI, yeah, as opposed to NEM. But from the perspective of the tourism sector, yeah, in with regards to the growth and survival of business, they prefer NAM more than FDI. And we can see the quite ranging and quite opposing view on those sectors, yeah, coming from the tourism and also coming from the tourism and also the retail industries and also the agricultural sector. So again, it depends. Yeah, we cannot say which is which. We cannot say which one is more relevant. We cannot say which is better because it depends solely on the sectors. Okay, so another factor, the most important aspect to drive business growth and sustainability. Yeah, what is if we have a pairwise comparison between financial performance and local value added. Yeah, we have an unanimous output, which is actually more to increase the local value added. It's not financial performance, but it is more to increase local value added. Then in figure 14, the most important aspect to encourage acquisition in technology. Yeah, which one? Yeah. From here, coming from the sectoral overview, yeah, from the agricultural sector, we have knowledge and organizational skills are the most important aspect, yeah, for taking the most of the investment. For the experts coming from the tourism and services and also the retail sectors, we have different results. Capital, machinery, and equipment. So this is actually quite questionable, yeah, with this different result. But after careful moderation, yeah, the experts combine. So we have knowledge, organizational skill, and also production activities as one of the most important aspects in terms of acquiring the technology. Another one, the most important aspect to expand market access. Yeah, of course, internationalization is the answer. Figure 16, the most important aspects to expand international market access. Yeah. So we find that from the expert, it's not export, it's not imports, but other. Yeah. What are others? Branch expansion, international consumers. It's not solely export and also imports. Yeah, in that regards. So internationalization is coming not from exports, not from imports, but from the collaboration, yeah, across countries, yeah, across TMCs and so on and so forth. This is what we got from the expert. But a different result, yeah, as I showed you, as I will show you here, is coming from the business. Let me show you later with regards to the internationalization. But first, of course, the business are actually preferring NAMs or FDIs actually because of one of the most important factors, growth and survival of business. Yeah. The biggest benefit of NAMs, yeah, according to GAPKINDO, this is actually an association of business association in the farming sectors. Growth and survival of business is actually one and the most important thing. With regards to the benefits, yeah, of according to business and sustainability aspect, it's not financial performance, it's actually local value added, just the same as before. But the difference is coming from the perspective of internationalization. Yeah, in terms of market expansion, they're aiming more on exports, which is quite very much understandable because the existing form of business is coming from how to push the export. But coming from the more macro perspective, which is coming from the expert, actually the branch expansion, international consumers is more relevant. But in the end, we can actually safe to say that export is actually also coming from the international demand. So it's actually quite the same perspective if we see it from that kind of perspective. The opportunity of challenges, yeah, the local and also the international cooperation is having their opportunities and also challenges. For most of the local firms of the local employees, we have uh, mostly the same, yeah, the same variable: management know-how, access to foreign markets. This is actually the opportunity for the local firms. As for the TNCs, yeah, we have differences across sectors. In natural rubber, in contract farming, fluctuation, volatility, yeah, standards, requirements, and then international demand is actually quite a challenge. Then in the subcontracting and footwear, we have standards and requirements from the international demand. Management contracts to tell the challenges are coming from the substantial investment, yeah, which is actually expected from the locals. That is actually very much a constraint, yeah, for most of the local firms in Indonesia. Another thing for franchising, yeah, training by TNCs and localization. This is also a matter of challenge. With that regard, if we can overcome that kind of obstacles, we can push more on the variation of investment, whether it is equity or non-equity. We can pursue the industrialization in Indonesia, which is very much a challenge until today. Yeah, but we have the momentum in 2021. We have several factors are coming and several positive factors for the Indonesian economy, especially in the manufacturing sector, that will create the momentum, and that we need to reap it, yeah, through several strategies, of course. Another issue, yeah, ownership, and also control, yeah. With NEMs, the local is or the foreigners are actually they are losing control, yeah. They are not strictly controlling the business, so that is actually one of the also the issue. With regards to the ownership, the TNC still can find, the company can offer the relevant services, but yeah, it's actually very loose in terms of ownership. But with respect to the locals, yeah, from our say informants, they are saying that they are actually prefer NAM because they can have their business, yeah, without any dilution. Yeah. Because foreign ownership will dilute their business, but NAMs will put them staying on the business and can take control and stay in control with the business. So different perspective coming from the TNCs and coming from the locals. Localization is also one of the issue, yeah, of the strategies. And with regards to the localization, it should be user-based. It should be community-based. Yeah, we have several issues in Indonesia. We have several variations of interest in Indonesia. So the localization strategies needs to actually comply with those kind of factors. Now, between NEM and also industries, certain modalities relate to specific industries, of course. For example, the rubber industry, as I showed you before, uses contract farming. The footwear industry applies subcontracting, and hotel and retail industries predominantly implement contract management. So different modes, different sectors. Management and franchise contracts will be promoted as foreign brand holders have demonstrated strong global marketing capabilities. So franchising, as I told you before, the business culture, the corporate culture can have an immediate impact. So it can also globalize the local brand. So that's actually one of the aim. In the retail industry, the level of direct participation of the foreign parent companies in the local franchise is quite minimal if the local master franchise has a direct relation with the foreign franchisor. So it's also an issue. Okay, so opportunities and challenges, maybe we can put it into discussion because we have only a very limited time. And so these are some strategies and policy implications. Of course, we need to enhance the capability of the local firms because there is the issue on NEM implementation. Also, we need also not to there is from the local firm's perspective is actually in terms of the capacity, but in terms of the expertise and the labor compatibility, we need to upgrade skills and also expertise because this is also a problem for Indonesia, most of Indonesian skill incompatibility. Yeah, most of the skilled workers not having jobs in their very origin or relevant to their background. So there's also an issue. Yeah, link and match. So this is the picture of University of Indonesia, the Rectorate Office. So because promoting skills and also expertise should be coming from the university. But again, we need to collaborate. This is in the term of the quadruple helix. It's not just the university. University of Great is actually creating skills. Yeah, but it need to collaborate with the industry. So it can be compatible with the industrial needs. And also, not only coming from the two actors, we need also the third actor, the government, need to actually facilitate the environment and also the community push, yeah, in terms of the quadruple helix collaboration. So we need several actors come into play. So it's actually interplaying variables. Another thing is to improve the investment regulation, which is actually quite very much in line with what the government is currently doing. So yeah, maybe we can have a better environment and business environment in the future. Next, yeah, is to promote connectivity and the coordination, yeah, to promote to the global value chain and also the coordination across actors. With that regards, we can actually promote globalization, promote regionalization, and promote sustainable growth in the future. Thank you very much for your attention, and may we have a fruitful discussion.